Now from Norman this morning. And Gene, just minutes ago, you had the chance to talk to Lincoln Riley. What more can you tell us about your conversation?
Well, Kevin, Lincoln Riley pulled into his driveway about 7 p.m. last night after winning that Big 12 championship in the Dallas area. Less than 14 hours later, he pulled out of that driveway and he came here to the University of Oklahoma airport, and we did have a chance to talk to him just before they took off. Lincoln, you lose to Kansas State on October 26. Suddenly your playoff chances seem like a long shot. How did you convince your team it still had a chance?
We've lived this story before. We know the quality of league we play in. We knew the quality of team that we had in that locker room, and knew that if we could improve on the things that we need to improve on, coaches, players, everybody, and go on a run, that we could give ourselves that opportunity. And our focus at that point was just, look, if we don't win, we're not going to have a chance anyway. So let's just focus on each week getting better, find a way to win each and every week, and then try to put yourself in position to win the Big 12 championship. And proud of our guys for being able to do that.
A year ago, Jalen Hurts is leading Alabama to an SEC championship and a spot in the playoff. A year later, he does it for you guys, winning the Big 12 championship and getting you a spot in the playoff. Why is Jalen built for these kind of moments?
It'll be a good 30 for 30, won't it? Just because of who he is, how much he puts into it. I mean, he's a very talented player that's done a lot for our program, certainly in a short amount of time. Probably misunderstood in some ways. I think what he's done this year has gone very underappreciated. It's how hard it is to do it with so many new pieces at a new place, and to play the way he has, leading our team to a championship. I'm proud he's on our team. I know that.
All right. Thank you for the time.
All right. Thank you.
If you think Riley was consumed by the playoff chase, think again. He said there were weeks that he had no idea where Oklahoma was ranked in the playoff rankings. He said on Friday he didn't watch 1 minute of Utah's loss in the Pac-12 championship. And Kevin, he said he only watched little bits and pieces of the third quarter of Georgia's loss in the SEC championship. Of course, both of those losses helped position Oklahoma for this playoff run.
Gene, I appreciate you giving Lincoln and Oklahoma the chance to rent your jet there on the runway for that interview. Thank you. Gene Wojciechowski from Norman with
he
Lincoln
Riley.
For
the fuel.
The fuel, oh yeah, that is key. Back here in the studio.
That's what's held me back too.
Exactly. Coach Mora here, Darren Orlovsky and Jonathan Vilma. Okay, last segment, we briefly talked about Jalen Hurts in the matchup and how Oklahoma's offense could be potentially one-dimensional in the playoff if their matchup against Ohio State. Let's extend this further. If Ohio State is the 1 seed, I'm fascinated on the other side because the 4 seed would be Oklahoma, featuring a defensive coordinator that was in Columbus a year ago, Alex Grinch. What have you seen so far from this Sooners defense, especially how they started the season, how they found a lull, and then they seem to be coming around, especially in the last couple of weeks?
Well, if they play like they did yesterday, which was with an edge, which was with a passion, which was with, you saw a violent team that was willing to put their body on people. They were swarming, they were attacking the ball, they were attacking the quarterback, things that we hadn't seen in the few previous weeks. We'd seen it a little bit earlier. If they play that way with the athletes that they have, then they are very, very dangerous. But it becomes hit and miss, and hit and miss to me means emotional, the ups and downs, the lack of consistency. But I have great confidence in Alex to get him straight for 1 or 2 more games. So, but it is still a concern for me how they play defense. Yesterday, no concern.
They were in the backfield against the Bears, especially in that first half.
They were, and they look great, and you see the potential. But my concern is that you have to, they're almost on the brink of edge, destruction, before they can finally pick it up. They have to be down 28-3 to Baylor before they decide, okay, we're going to play some football here. And I'm like, if you're a defensive guy, the mindset of a defensive player, you cannot turn it on and off. You're either on or you're off, and you stay on. So, I don't understand now they have a very good linebacker, Kenneth Murray Jr. Yeah. Outside of that, I don't understand why the rest of the players need to be almost to the edge of obscurity before they finally say, all right, we're going to finally turn it on and play some defense.
Yeah, I think we need to put a little bit more respect on Oklahoma's name and Lincoln Riley's name. Like, they're going going to have an extended period of time here to get prepared for these football games. Lincoln Riley's one of the best kind of game planners and then in-game coaches in college football. I think Alex Grinch is becoming that way as well, like figuring out how important the tactical moves are. I was on the call for that Kansas State game, and what happened was Kansas State just figured Oklahoma out and had their number, and it was like they were one step ahead in them all the time, offensively, to Oklahoma's defense.
But Dan, we're not
talking about
disrespecting Lincoln Riley at all.
I know, but
it's all about the defense.
Dan,
correct.
When you see players that are arm tackling or lunging and not bringing their feet and cheek turning a little bit, that's an emotional thing.
What we're talking about.
Just like,
I think there's a little bit of a lack of,
but
there's a hesitation there as well. Like, am I playing fast and confident?
Alex's scheme, outstanding. I mean, you watch what they were doing up front yesterday with the pre-snap movement and getting guys free. His scheme, you can't deny that it's outstanding. Lincoln Riley, he's proven to be one of the great coaches in college football, but it comes down to the men on the field playing the game, and do they really want to be there? Now, if they're in the semifinal and in the final championship, they're going to want to be there. But I have concerns because what Jonathan and I have seen is just, you know what I'm talking about.
Look,
just take it back to turn at times.
Take it back to the semifinal game last year. Nothing about scheme. They would have 2, 3 guys ready right there to make the tackle. They just wouldn't. They would, as you said, turn. They would wait for the guy to go, and then they're chasing and make it look like they're trying to make a tackle.
Right.
That's what we're talking about. And it has nothing to do with scheme. It's more about how do you motivate the players. So I think Grinch has done a great job of motivating the players. It's that he has to constantly motivate the players, and that's my concern. If you're a defensive guy, I don't need you in my ear, coach, every damn week to get me motivated to play. Like, my mindset is on. I'm on.
And I think that you can use yesterday's game, if you're Alex Grinch, as data to your team or proof to your team saying, hey, when you guys are playing fast, when you're playing aggressive, when you're doing the little things that we constantly harp on you, the performance is X. I mean, listen, Baylor had some big plays that
in the second half.
Right. They had some big
defending
plays.
the deep ball wasn't
I don't know if it was the consistency of them getting pushed around or anything like that.
You should not have to convince defensive players to play hard.
Correct.
I've been lucky. I've coached 2 #1 defenses in the NFL, in San Francisco and New Orleans. And there was never a concern whether they were going to go on that field motivated.
Right.
Okay? It was a given. Right. Talking about Ricky Jackson and Chris Dolman and Kenny Norton and Rod Woodson and Tim McDonald.
You're ready to strap it up, right? There's the chin strap here.
I mean, when you're talking about those guys, you remember the Dome Patrol?
Of course.
A coach didn't have to say anything.
I played
a coach
in New
didn't
Orleans,
have.
right?
I know. You got the ring on.
I got the ring.
But
You had to go there, huh?
and I understand what you guys are saying, but you guys also, you coach and you play different era, right? Different teams, different motivation for
that's
these kids.
BS, because
I'm not making an excuse. I'm not making an excuse. I'm just saying
Defense,
some
quarterback,
some nuance and context and perspective of it's just a different era of finding a way to motivate 18 to 22-year-olds.
Thank you.
It's got to come from in here.
You're right.
Matters.
Wait a minute, though. We've seen Clemson with 4 first-rounders or whatever they had last year on the defensive front still turn around and motivate these guys. So it's not about the different era. You got to know exactly who you're recruiting and who you're signing.
Key, right?
That's what we're talking about.
Are you bringing in the right guy?
In?
Hey, before we go, I want to make sure we talk about this because I think this is the one thing that's really fascinating when we play the game of hypotheticals before noon, right? Okay. The one matchup you want to see, whether it's a semifinal or a national championship, what do you want to see?
I want to see the #1 pick in the draft next year versus the #1 pick in the draft 2 years from now. I want to see Joe Burrow versus Trevor Lawrence. I want to see the guy at quarterback who took the country by storm last year, and Trevor Lawrence and his performance as a true freshman versus the guy who took the country by storm this year at quarterback. Like, both are incredibly athletic, very good decision makers, can throw the football downfield. Trevor Lawrence can make throws just window-wise and accuracy-wise that I don't know if anyone else in college football can make throws like that consistently where guys are covered and he's just going to go, my arm, my placement will be better than anybody else's. Their receivers are flawless. Wait,
who's
Clemson,
receivers? Ellis. Oh, okay.
At Clemson, I think both receivers, but I want to see the quarterbacks go head-to-head. I want to see those 2 quarterbacks who I think are playing 1 and 1A, if we're going to go there, at quarterback more than anyone else.
Spoken like a true.
Okay, and you know, and listen, and it's not a knock because Trevor Lawrence has been fantastic, but there's a crew there from Buckeye Nation saying, hey, Justin Fields could be the #1 quarterback taken in 2021. What's the matchup you want to see?
Oof, I want to see.
Beat that.
I know, that's a tough one. But I do want to see the receivers. I already mentioned it. I want to see the receivers match up, Clemson's receivers match up against Ohio State's DBs. I want to see that. And frankly, that is the biggest matchup to me because Jeff Okudah is supposed to be top 5 pick, number 1 corner coming out, and we're talking about Justin Ross and T. Higgins. Justin Ross can't come out. T. Higgins is supposed to be a top pick. I want to see how they match up because watching the athleticism, it doesn't matter what you call, right? It's cat coverage. I don't care what defense you're calling. It's cat coverage. So you line up, you beat my cat, or you're not going to beat my cat. I want to see that matchup because that's going to say a lot about the quarterbacks. Where can they put the ball?
Jim, who you got?
I agree with you, and I'd love to see Clemson, Ohio State in the semis, which, according to my rankings, we won't see. And then I'd like to see the winner versus LSU, and I think either way you cut it, it would be a great game.
All right, well, we're playing the hypothetical game. We've got about 60 more minutes to play that hypothetical game, and then at the noon hour, we have the exclusive reveal on ESPN with the selection show, and the committee getting ready. They watched the games over the weekend together. That is key. And the 13 members inside that room, we've all been a part of this process. We understand that the question